Welcome to another episode of Horrible History. Today, we're talking about a glowing green element that rotted people from the inside out. They're putting this stuff in everything, from cosmetics to drinking water. It would take young women hired to paint watch dials to bring this deadly matter to light. But by then, it was already too late. The damage was done. This is the story of radium. The year is 1898 in Paris, France. Marie and Pierre Curie are working with pitchblende or uraninite. This is an ore that is kind of a blend of uranium, polonium, and radium. It's just a mixture of these radioactive materials. So what they were trying to do is break down this ore into each individual substance. And they would do this by breaking down the actual ore and using acids to separate each element. Now, Marie Curie, she discovered radium, and she was very intrigued by this strange element that glowed. It gave off this soft, eerie glow. She was just so intrigued by this element that she would carry these samples with her and leave them on her bedstand and carry them in her pocket, which I don't know how safe that is, and I don't know if that was a great idea, but I wouldn't recommend it. So they know that radium contains this energy, but they don't really know what to do with it. So what does anybody do when they find strange elements that glow? They start putting it in their mouth and on their face. They start putting radium in everything. They're putting it in chocolate, in butter, in face creams. They're putting it in toothpaste, and they even just add it to water. Nobody knew about the dangers of this strange new element. They just wanted to make money off of it, and they sold this as a miracle cure that could cure anything from arthritis to cancer to bad skin. It would fix anything. This was a cure-all. This was the hot new product that they were just throwing on the market and putting in everything. All they knew was glow means good. So as radium made its way to the market, it was a very expensive product. It's actually one of the most expensive elements on Earth. It costs around $100,000 per gram. So products made with radium were marketed to more affluent people. Radium was seen as a status symbol during the time. A few years later, in 1914, World War I breaks out. And it wouldn't be until 1917 when the United States would formally enter the war against Germany. Now what this was an opportunity for was to try out some of this new technology. And they used radium mixed with zinc sulfide to create a paint that would glow in the dark. Now what they wanted to use this for was the watch faces on soldiers' watches so they could tell what time it was even at night. So in order to get these watches to the US military, US Radium Corporation would open up factories mainly in New Jersey and Illinois. And they would hire these young women because they had small hands, which were better for painting these watch dials, which were really small. Now in order to paint these watch faces, they had to get a fine point on these paintbrushes, and they were encouraged to use a technique called lip pointing. And this meant them dipping the paintbrush in the paint and then taking it to their mouth and pulling it through their lips to get a fine point and then painting those watch dials. This is how a lot of the radium entered their body. The girls even questioned management. Is this safe? Because, putting paint and chemicals never seems very safe, but management assured them, no, it's completely safe. It's actually good for your health. So just keep doing it and don't worry about the consequences and stop asking questions. Management said they would bring in an expert to come in and check out the girls and make sure it was completely safe. And this guy wasn't even a physician. He was a toxicologist who already worked for the company, and he said, yep, everything's A-okay. World War I was also one of the time periods when women first entered the workforce because all of the men were overseas fighting in the war. So this was a great opportunity for these young women. They were making 3 times what the average factory worker in America was making. So this is a great opportunity. It was clean, it was safe, it made a lot of money. So a lot of these young women, they jumped at the opportunity. What was crazy was, at the end of their shift, many of these girls would be glowing from all of the radium they had put on their teeth and on their clothing. All the radioactive dust would give off this eerie glow, and they became known as the Radium Girls. Some even called them the Ghost Girls, because they had an eerie, ghostly glow. Some of them liked it, and they would put it on their teeth before going out or wear their best dresses to work, so they would have this nice glow when they go out to dance after work. But everything that glows can't last forever. It would take a few years, but then the illnesses and the sicknesses would start to set in. Many of the girls complained of the same sicknesses and aches and pains in their teeth and in their jaw. So after many of these girls got sick, they brought it to the attention of management, but they refused to take any accountability for what was happening to the girls, ensuring them that everything was completely up to code and safe and healthy. And they even blamed it on the girls, saying, well, this is probably syphilis or bad hygiene, which is just horrible to blame it on them. And then following the illnesses came the teeth falling out, and then they would go to the dentist and have the dentist look, and they would see the hole form where the tooth was, and then an abscess would form, and they'd go, why isn't any of this healing? And then bones started disintegrating, and eventually the whole jawbone would come out. Now what was happening was the radium was entering their body, and the body was using it like magnesium and calcium because they're in the same family of elements, and so radium was going straight to their bones and being deposited in their bones. And the radiation was slowly deteriorating their body. They were literally falling apart. One of the girls, her spine crushed under the weight of her own body. They said a dentist was even able to pull out a whole girl's jawbone without any tools or instruments, just with his hands. That's how brittle their bones had become. In 1922, at the age of 25, Amelia Maggio would be the first of the Radium Girls to succumb to radiation. But she would be far from the last. In 1925, the U.S. Radium Corporation would hire Cecil Drinker, a Harvard physician, to come in and run a test on these girls to find out what was making them sick. And his conclusion was, yeah, it was the radium. But not liking those outcomes, the U.S. Radium Corporation took his report and falsified it and put that one out instead. That doesn't sound shady at all. A company would never do anything to escape accountability. But you have to remember, this was a time period when they had first entered the workforce and there wasn't a lot of protection for workers during this time period. The girls who had been working in these dial painting factories were slowly, painfully dying. The ones that were left decided to take action and sue the U.S. Radium Corporation. With Grace Fryer leading the charge, her and 4 other women came forward to take this company to court. These women were Edna Hussman, Catherine Schaub, Quinta McDonald, and Albina Larice. Also Grace Fryer, but she was kind of leading this thing. It would take them 2 years to find an attorney that would take up their case, and they found Raymond Barry, and he decided he would take on the U.S. Radium Corporation. They had a long, arduous battle in front of them. They were taking on a large, powerful company. In 1927, the case actually begins, but the U.S. Radium Corporation just keeps putting it off and trying to discredit these women. Eventually, they settle out of court in 1928. And do you want to hear their great settlement? They each receive $10,000. They were awarded $600 per year for the rest of their life, and their medical and legal bills were paid. Yep, that's it. Many of these women wouldn't survive much longer after the settlement, but their legacy lives on. It was a groundbreaking case, and it brought workplace conditions and safety to the foreground, strengthening workers' rights to sue employers over occupational illness, prompting stricter industrial safety regulations, and laying groundwork for the creation of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA. Okay, so we got radium out of the workplace, but what about all those products that were on the market that had radium in them? Well, in 1927, there was this wealthy Yale golfer named Eben Byers, and he hurt his shoulder, so he decided to go to the doctor, and the doctor, hearing about this new miracle drug, told him, what you should do is take this thing called Radithor. And what this was radium in water, just radium water. So he starts taking it, and he takes over 1,400 doses of Radithor. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a lot of Radithor. That's a lot of radium in your body. He even praises the product and says it makes him feel amazing, and he's never felt better in his life. But that really has no bearing when your body is being broken down by radiation. By 1930, so about 3 years of Radithor, he decides to stop taking this drug because he doesn't get that same feeling anymore, and his teeth are falling out, and he has headaches, and his jaw falls off. In 1931, the FTC, or the Federal Trade Commission, wants him to testify against radium products. He's bedridden, he can't even come and testify, so they send a lawyer to his house, and the lawyer says he only has his 2 front teeth on top, and there is no lower jaw. All of this is gone. It had all fallen off. Eben Byers wouldn't live much longer. He died in 1932 from bone cancer, and this shocked the whole marketplace, and radium products were taken off of the market completely. They are not safe for human consumption. Today, radium is not in any consumer products. It's still used very exclusively for cancer treatment, and that's under very controlled conditions. They found safer alternatives for all of the glow-in-the-dark and medicinal purposes that radium tried to claim. It's a shame that this happened to these young girls who were preyed upon for just wanting a job opportunity, and they were used like this and lied to. It makes me wonder what kind of things that we're being lied to today. Maybe the government or our workplace, or, just unsafe conditions that there could be out there that we're being lied to or being kept in the dark about. What's crazy is Eben Byers, Marie Curie, and the Radium Girls. Their bones are still glowing with that radioactivity in the ground to this day, as a warning to the dangers of radium. It is estimated that over 100 girls died as watch dial painters from the radium paint. But many of them we don't even know about, because some of them were listed as syphilis deaths or bad hygiene or anemia. There's no telling how many there were. It makes you wonder if the US Radium Corporation really knew about the dangers of this radium paint, and if they were just trying to cover it all up to escape accountability. What do you think? The legacy of the Radium Girls lives on and is a huge part of the story of radium. Thank you so much for watching this video on radium. If you liked it, hit the like and subscribe. If you didn't, thank you so much for watching this long. It really means the world to me. Well, this has been the story of radium on Horrible History.